Boris's Best of British Bulletin, Episode 3, 31st July 2020. This week, in Tory Britain, the government said we should all lose a bit of weight. So they launched a Fix Your Bike voucher website, which broke in less than an hour. Meanwhile, they're still issuing half-price vouchers so we can buy hamburgers. It was revealed that the government spent £400 million buying a bankrupt satellite company, OneWeb, to replace the Euro GPS systems we were going to lose due to Brexit. Mere months earlier, a study by MIT found that OneWeb's tech is 6 times less efficient than the EU solution and is the worst of the technologies studied. So that's more of my tax money spaffed up a wall. Cheers, Boris. In June, the government merged the Department for International Development with the Foreign Office. And they did that with the assurance that there would be no cuts in international aid. This week, the government predictably cut international aid by £2.9 billion. And the government quietly granted permission for your health records to be handed over to Palantir, a controversial data mining company said to have worked with Cambridge Analytica during Brexit. How reassuring. And what I'm sure is an entirely coincidental coincidence, they did both of those things on the day that Parliament broke up. So there won't be any questions about this. No, nothing to see here. Move along, please. Move along. But in answers to questions about the Russia report, the government's suggested solution is to, no, honestly, I'm not making this up, is to ask Russia who their spies are. Oh dear. Ex-Russian intelligence staff say 85% of their work is not spying but political funding and misinformation. Which brings us neatly onto political funding and misinformation news. Since 2012, the Tory party has had almost £3 million in donations from members or former members of Vladimir Putin's cabinet. 14 current government ministers have received donations from individuals or companies connected to the Russian leadership. Priti Patel competently reassured us all by saying the Russia report could be ignored because it was now 9 months old and out of date. But Priti Patel and Boris's government are the ones who delayed the release of the report for 9 months, and the reasons given described as simply not true, aka misinformation, by the Intelligence Committee. The strangely alluring Home Secretary seems to think we are all stupid. Now on to COVID news, and Matt Hancock boasted he had met the targets on his 6 tests of COVID-19. Fact-checkers found that only 4 of the 6 targets were missed. 1 target couldn't be met because it had never been defined, and 1 relied on a definition that does not reflect practice. The Cross-Party Public Accounts Committee found that there was an astonishing failure to plan for the economic impact of COVID-19. It called the government slow, inconsistent and negligent. The chair of the committee said, "A government does not run a country on the hoof." In more on the hoof news, the government quarantined tourists returning from Spain because Spain was dangerous. The day before, Spain had 2 COVID deaths. Britain had 114. Transport Secretary was on holiday in Spain, so was effectively trapped by his own department's decision. Which brings us to Brexit news, and a report from the London School of Economics showed a WTO Brexit will permanently shrink 16 of the UK's 24 industrial sectors by up to 15% each. Permanently. A Tory MP then happily tweeted, "WTO, here we come." Another pro-Brexit Tory MP, with a grasp of what's about to come, tweeted, "My strong advice is to take the opportunity to live abroad." Then, to top it all off, Dominic Cummings, of all people, tweeted that leaving the EU could be an error. And now, procurement. Does anyone know what these fine companies have in common? Ayanda Capital, Uniserve, P14 Medical Supplies, Pestfix, Clandeboy Agencies, Medicine Box Limited, Initia Ventures Limited, Morgan Acoustics, Lux Lifestyle, Aventus Solutions and Medco Solutions. Anyone? Anyone at all? Firstly, none of them are PPE suppliers. Secondly, all of them have been awarded multi-million-pound government contracts. Yep, you guessed it, to supply PPE to the government. finally, none of them have actually delivered any PPE. In all, approximately £1 billion has been given to inexplicable suppliers for PPE that hasn't been delivered. All of this brought to us directly by the party of fiscal responsibility. The government's world-beating test and trace programme was described as scandalous by the British Medical Journal and found to miss its 80% target in every COVID hotspot announced this week. Boris Johnson refused a public inquiry into government handling of COVID-19. And finally, just in case he leads his party to the same place as he led his two businesses, which is bankruptcy, the Scottish Tory leader decided that it was time to resign. The fact that Nicola Sturgeon scalped him every week has nothing whatsoever to do with it. Now people, this may sound like a really trippy episode of The Twilight Zone, but it is in fact just one painfully usual week in Tory Britain. Yes, folks, despite going into recess, the UK government are still managing to balls up almost everything. Which leaves us with one question. Are you yes yet? Folks, thanks for watching. Comment on the Facebook page. Play nicely. Unionists are welcome on my page. Please make them feel it. Davey PhD.